What if we could totally transform our approach to education? What if we could move away from thinking about it as this, I don't know, this rigid mechanical process, and instead see it as something that's alive and connected? Well, today, that's exactly what we're going to explore. We're going to see how the wisdom from Robin Wall Kimmerer's amazing book, Braiding Sweetgrass, can help us do that, weaving the teachings of plants and deep scientific knowledge right into our daily work as educational developers. All right, let's get into it. Just start with this one question. What if a curriculum wasn't just a document? A thing we create and then deliver. What if we saw it as a living system that we are constantly tending to and nurturing? Honestly, this one little shift in how we see things, well, it's the key to everything we're about to talk about. It changes our entire role. So here's our roadmap. First, we're going to look inward at our own mindset, because that's where it all starts. Then we'll turn our focus outward and talk about building stronger, more reciprocal communities. After that, we'll zoom out even further and look at how we can tend to the curriculum as a whole living system. And then at the very end, you'll get a personal invitation to start weaving these ideas into your own practice. Okay, section 1, shifting our mindset. This is the foundation. It all begins right here with changing how we see ourselves, our colleagues, and really the very nature of learning itself. So in the Haudenosaunee story of Sky Woman Falling, we learn this incredible lesson about making choices for a sustainable future. For us, in our world, this is such a powerful metaphor for resisting that constant frantic pressure of deadlines. It's about having the courage to make choices that protect the space for deep, meaningful learning. Not just for this semester, but for the long haul. So what does that actually look like day to day? Well, when you see a teen that's just completely burning out, it means we can step in and help them prioritize the quality of learning over just hitting a deadline. Maybe that looks like suggesting they use fewer but better scaffolded assessments. Assignments that intentionally build on each other instead of just a bunch of disconnected high-stakes tasks. The real point is, our job is to act as stewards, protecting the future conditions for learning, not just ticking a box for today. Oh, this slide shows such a huge shift in our role. So often we're tempted to walk into a room as the expert performer, right? We've got the frameworks, we've got the answers. But what if instead we chose to be the humble listener? That means we walk in and we ask about their challenges first. We center their knowledge and we act as a guide for their process. Why does this matter so much? Because that's how you build real trust. That's how you get genuine buy-in from faculty, which leads to changes that actually last. Now, this next idea, the grammar of animacy, is a real game changer. It can completely flip how we think about and write learning outcomes. So instead of seeing knowledge as this static thing, an object that students get or acquire, we start to frame it as an active, living relationship that they engage with. Just look at the example here. Instead of a vague outcome like a student will know ethics, we rephrase it to something active, like critically reflecting upon personal behaviors. Can you feel the difference? It's this massive shift from passive possession to active engagement. We're describing how students are actually going to act with their knowledge out there in the world. Okay, so once we start shifting our own internal mindset, it just naturally starts to radiate outward and change our relationships. So for section 2, let's talk about building a truly reciprocal community. The story of the gift of strawberries is all about reciprocity. And wow, it just beautifully reframes how we think about student feedback. It teaches us to see their comments not as data points to be mined, but as a genuine gift, a gift of insight that we now have a responsibility to honor, all for the sake of the students who will come next. So how do we honor a gift like that? Well, we can start by advocating for a students as partners model, actually inviting them to help co-create parts of the curriculum, not just react to it after the fact. And this is so important. We have to close the loop. We have to report back to them and show them, hey, because of what you shared, here's what actually changed. That's what real reciprocity looks like. The Council of Pecans gives us this fantastic model for making decisions as a group, where the guiding principle is that what's good for one is good for all. In our work, this means we're trying to foster this deeply collegial process where decisions are made together to strengthen the entire program, not just to benefit one single course or one single person. In practice, our role becomes one of a community facilitator. And here's a great tactic. Use shared documents for that initial brainstorming phase. That way, every single voice gets heard before one person's draft starts to dominate the whole conversation. It's all about creating that sense of shared collective ownership right from the very beginning. You know, in nature, asters and goldenrod, they look beautiful together, but they also thrive by supporting each other. It's the same with our curriculum. It needs this healthy, interdependent relationship with the community, with employers, with alumni, with everyone it serves. It just can't flourish in some isolated academic vacuum. So our job here is really to be the bridge. We're the ones who can facilitate those vital conversations with community partners. We listen carefully for the shared themes that pop up, and then we help faculty translate that wisdom into a curriculum that's not only academically rigorous, but also genuinely relevant to the world that students are stepping into. So all of this, the internal mindset shift, the relational community building, it all leads us right here to our final big section, tending the living curriculum. Now we're zooming all the way out to see the entire program as one interconnected, living, breathing ecosystem. Think about it. A forest isn't just a collection of trees, right? It's a living system, and a curriculum is exactly the same. Each course isn't its own little island. It's deeply connected to all the others. They support each other, they communicate with each other, and they create a whole that is so much richer than the sum of its parts. And this is where a tool like curriculum mapping becomes incredibly powerful. Because, as you can see, it makes all those invisible connections suddenly visible. We can sit down with faculty and clearly show them, look, a skill gets introduced in this first-year course, then it's reinforced over here in second year, and it all leads to mastery in this final capstone experience. It really becomes about tending to the health of the entire system. The principle of taking only what's needed from the earth, well, it applies directly to how we handle data and assessment. We have to be mindful, not extractive. We really need to resist that institutional pressure to just collect data for the sake of collecting data, because all that does is lead to burnout, exhaustion, and cynicism. So our job is to help our teams ask one critical question before they launch another survey. What specific decision will this information actually help us make? If there's no clear answer to that, well, maybe we just don't need it. That simple little filter can prevent so much survey fatigue, and it really respects everyone's time and energy. And that brings us here to this beautiful and final concept of an offering. This is really about how we express our gratitude through tangible, meaningful action, by connecting our learning to the specific places we all inhabit, and by embedding a sense of ethics into the very design of our courses. This is how we can move a land acknowledgement from being just a formal statement into a living practice. We can help faculty design assignments that are actually connected to local stories, to local ecological realities. We can help them teach students not just how to do something, but to think about their ethical responsibility in doing it. So where does all this leave us? You know, what we've really explored today isn't just a new toolkit or a set of techniques. It's a profound shift in our entire way of being, a shift from seeing ourselves as technical managers to being relational stewards, and from being isolated experts to humble guides who are all tending a beautiful living system. So I'll just leave you with this one thought to reflect on. In your own work, in your own community, what is one gift? Maybe it's a gift of listening, a gift of reciprocity, or a gift of stewardship. What is one gift that you can offer back to your learning community tomorrow? Thanks so much for joining me.